I'm Jan Ozer. I'm meeting today with Damien Sterkers, who is VP of Products and Solutions Marketing at Broadpeak, to discuss his company's new Multiview solution. Thanks for joining me, Damien.
Thank you, Jan. Very happy to be here.
Okay. You've got a presentation. Let's go through it.
Right. So, topic is Multiview. Maybe I'm going to start by talking about the different solutions that Broadpeak proposes in general. So, we're proposing video processing products pretty much end-to-end from the capture to the end device. In particular, so we have this video processing section. We've been deploying origin packagers, cloud DVR, for quite a bit of time now, probably over 10 years. And now we're proposing this Multiview solution, which is kind of an extension of what we're proposing on our origin packaging process.
Okay. It also builds on some of the other technologies you have, say, in content personalization, particularly dynamic ad insertion and some others?
Yeah, you're right. In terms of the way that we manipulate the manifest and all the know-how that we got, throughout the years, that's been part of, what we're bringing to that solution. That's right.
Okay. Good background.
Yeah, and these solutions, so they're available in different ways. So, typically our customers are selecting the way of operation that they prefer. So it can be a licensed software, and then they run it by themselves. They install their own system. It can be a SaaS with our Broadpeak.io platform, or it could be a fully managed service. So we have a team of operators that work 24/7. Around the globe, so we can take that in charge as well if this is what is preferred.
What can you tell me about Broadpeak? How long you've been in business? You're based where? How large are you? Give me some representative customers.
Yeah,
for somebody who's not heard of who's not heard of Broadpeak, what would you describe the company as?
Yeah, thank you, Jan. It's always good to come back to that. So Broadpeak is a company that is based in France and many other, the headquarters in France, but there are many offices around the globe. It's been created in 2012, so we've been around for quite a while. It's a company that's around 300 people today, and we've been working with anyone doing a video streaming operation, with quite some experience, and we're known for, being very, very present with our customers and really follow up, the deployments and follow them through their journey until they get the service delivered to the end users.
What are the 2 or 3 products that you're most known for?
Well, we're quite famous for the delivery because this is where we've started. So CDN, we have something that is quite unique, which is multicast DVR, the ability to deliver live events in multicast, so meaning only one stream for everyone. So it's very helpful when we have massive audiences. We're been investing a lot in ad insertion, these past years. So we have a pretty powerful solution to propose here. Origin packaging has been also a very important part of our business. We're serving really reference operators like Deutsche Telekom or Charter in the US, these kind of things. So, it's systems that are really very, very important, really large, and serving a lot of customers. So we've gathered quite a bit of experience in all these aspects.
Okay. Let's and basically this slide is saying that you offer the solution multiple ways. You can either license it, run it yourself, use your services, your software as a service, or you can do the whole managed service. Yeah. So pretty much what you said. So let's go to the next slide.
All right. So specifically around Multiview, so the principle, I think everybody's aware, is to have different programs within the same screen, right? And usually we talk about views or tiles, hence Multiview. Sometimes the first remark that I'm getting is, oh, I know this, back in the time, maybe 20 years ago, it was called a mosaic. So maybe, to to really highlight the difference. The difference is that the mosaic was very static, so the operator was deciding on one, maybe 4 or 5 pages of mosaic, but it was very static. Here, the difference with Multiview is that the end user gets to choose, what content he wants to put in the screen and also the overlay, how you want that to be presented. So, a typical one would be like to split the screen in 4, but I could decide to take one and have it bigger than the other ones, and then the small ones I can decide where I put them on the screen, this kind of stuff. So typically why it's interesting, most people would use that. It's very much linked to live events, I would say. You want to make sure that you're following in live, what's going on different scenes. So typically sports. So if you have like a championship where different games going on at the same time, that's really one main example of how people would use it. Sometimes people like to use it also to do different angles on the same game, but that will involve that the production was meant for that, right? Or more prosaically, sometimes you want to watch your series, but you have the news on the side because you don't want to miss an event, or maybe the game is getting a bit boring. You want to watch something at the same time, but see whenever there's a goal or anything going on, you can still get an eye on it, right? So these are the typical use cases.
I mean, the market dynamics are pretty stunning in this case. I mean, the second screen experience has become huge for a number of reasons, whether it's betting or fantasy or even remote marketing. So I think I'm of the age where if I watch a game, it's pretty much the only thing I watch. But my children can't watch a single screen, and this gives a publisher a way to be responsive to that, as well as to scratch the itch for betting, fantasy, any of the other activities that could steal attention from the main screen. If you either watch it on your phone, or if you got Multiview, you can put it up on the screen, and that gets the revenue back to the publisher. So it's a pretty compelling offering when it comes to sports in particular, for a lot of those demographics and for a lot of those reasons.
Yeah, that's right, and you're right to highlight. I think at this point we're providing the tools, but a lot of the use cases are still to be discovered, and it has to do. Maybe you're right. There's something generational as well. I see my kids, whenever they're watching TV, they always have another screen under their eyes. Maybe they've grown some ability to have one eye on one screen and the other one on another one. I don't know, but there's something that is probably more and more, in the way we consume TV. The ability to have multi-screen will be included in that, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
So, as you were saying, this is an application that already being used, right, and with quite some success. So these are some examples of, streaming operators that have implemented it. So notably, people have seen that YouTube had that now available, the Apple TV, and some other, Comcast, obviously, and some other operators that, in Europe or elsewhere in the world. So we're kind of at the beginning. I guess it started more in the US, but now people are following, and there's really a real interest from a lot of operators. So I'm anticipating that more and more, users will be exposed to that functionality and the ability to watch in Multiview. Very briefly, in terms of impact of interactive features, that's something that is pretty high consistently in the studies. I just wanted to note that. It's not only impressions, but something that's been documented as well. So we're getting into the way it's working. So typically, so this is not how we implement it at Broadpeak, but these are the two typical approaches that people choose from to implement a Multiview. One would be client-side, so sometimes referred to as multiplayer. It's named like that because the principle is that you would send the different programs to the client, and then the client will be in charge to connect to the different programs and then do all the heavy lifting, right? So he would decide how he's going to present these different programs, resize the videos, and do everything like that, right? So nothing to be done on the headed side the system remains the same. So the good thing is that nothing to be changed on the system, right? No extra cost. You got full flexibility to decide. Well, the end user can decide really, has full flexibility on what he wants to watch and what kind of configuration. Now, on the downside is that you're putting quite some constraints on the player, and typically there are only very few players that are able to deal with that. So you need to receive end streams at the same time, and then it's you're also limited by the device capacity, right? So there's quite some processing going on. So if you want to have like the most optimized, cost-optimized device, typically you won't be able to do that.
And that's why you're showing Apple TV. I think it was Fubo TV. They implemented this in 2021 with Apple TV, and then didn't add any other platforms for 4 years, I think it was. So it's the big limitation here is player side, and you really, there are gazillions of dumb smart TVs out there that really can't handle the load, and if you adopt this approach, you really can't deliver to those endpoints.
You're right. If you adopt this approach as an operator, you should be prepared to tell your customers it's going to be available, but this is the list of devices where it's going to work, right? So you're going to have to come with these restrictions. And the other approach is to do that server side, and usually referred to as multi-encode, and this is typically what YouTube has decided, right? And YouTube, in their communication, they were saying, well, I don't want to restrict the devices where this is going to be available on, right? So that was really their entry point. So the principle here is to say, well, if my customers are going to ask for a number of combinations, I'm going to prepare these combinations in advance in the system. And when they request the combination, it will be specifically on this combination that is prepared as being a different channel, right, or a different video. Now, the problem with that is the way it's implemented today is it means that usually you would do the combination of the different views at the baseband level, and then you need to encode and package afterwards, right? So that means that you need an encoding capacity for each and every combination that you want to propose to your end users. So typically, when you play with combinations, I don't know, let's say, for example, you have 20 channels and you want to present it, maybe you have a layout, 5 different layouts. I think that's around 20,000 combinations that then will be proposed to your end users. So that means that you need to have the capacity for 10,000 encoders here, right? So it works. It does meet, the requirement that it's compatible on any device, but it costs a lot of money in terms of encoding, right?
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, to be fair, I think most publishers don't offer 20,000 outputs, but I think they offer several that are popular. There are ways to allow users to customize using this approach, but as you say, each separate stream requires its own transcoder, and at some point you're going to reach capacity. So I guess the bottom line here is, every channel needs a separate encoder, which is not what you're getting on the client side approach, because that's going to use what's already encoded. But here, every channel that you add is another transcoder, which can get expensive.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't expect a lot of people to have 20,000 combination with encoding. It's just to highlight the fact that it's exponential, right? If you compare the input towards the output. To be specific, it's more factorial, but same idea, right? Is that you can add a little bit at the input and it makes a big difference at the output, right?
But really, as you started off saying, this looks just like another channel to a smart TV. So it's 100% compatibility from the start, even though your choice of what the users can watch is a little bit limited. It plays everywhere. It plays everywhere your service plays, and that's obviously, if you're going to implement Multiview, you want it to be pretty widespread.
Exactly. So, this is what I was showing here as a pro in the cons. You need this encoding capacity, so it can be very expensive. or limited in the number of combinations that you can propose to your end users, or a mix of the two. Usually you're trying to balance a bit these two constraints, right?
Exactly. I guess I want to make the point that it's possible to allow users to create their own multi-view, even if it is server-side built, but each custom multi-view is going to need a transcoder. So it's not like you're stuck with, X. Okay.
Yeah. No, exactly. Maybe you're going to allow, you will have a capacity maybe for 100 combinations, let's say. So you can imagine that you have an API so that, if you're within the first 100, I'm not counting the ones that are reusing the same as their neighbors, right? But if you're within the first 100, you can have something specific, but then you're reaching the limit, and the following one will have to comply to, whatever of the 100 that is already being defined. So it's kind of complex to explain to end users, though. I think it's a restriction that unless you're doing something pretty static, and people will understand that these are the choices. If you want to make it dynamic, then you'll have to explain these limits in terms of capacity. And I'm sure it's possible, but I think it's probably complex.
Got it.
So these are the typical approaches, and so with Broadpeak solution, the reason why we've developed it, we think we can propose to the market a third approach that has a lot of advantages. And in particular, we want to lift the main constraints of the two approaches. So we want to have a single transcoding, and we still want to have a single video stream per screen, so meaning that you get the advantage of the server side, but without the cost that is typically associated to it. Right? So how we're doing that, we call it multi-package, right? You had multi-encode or multi-client. Here it's multi-package. So I should start by saying it's a server-side solution, so meaning that everything happens in the system, nothing in the client. But basically, instead of doing it at the encoding level, which is quite expensive in terms of processing, we're doing it at the packaging level. Right? So let's say you want to do a lot of combination from 10 input channels, you will encode only each of these channels once, so 10 encode capacity. And then you can do the combination you want. You can have thousands of different combinations. It won't cost you extra encoding. So you'll tell me, yes, but it will cost you a bit more processing at the repackaging. So yes, that's a fact. We have a process to recombine at the packaging level, but it's in the range of hundreds to 1,000 times less CPU usage than if you were using an importer, right? So
okay. So
yep.
Let's just take a step back, and so essentially, it's you're manipulating metadata. You're not re-transcoding.
Exactly.
But the limitation is you're working with HEVC only source videos. Is that talk about that for a second?
Right. So this is what is shown here. So the ability to encode separately the different tiles that you want in your combination, and then at the packaging level, having the ability to recombining them is requiring the stream to be HEVC. Why? Because there's been some addition of tools in HEVC coding that allows to do that properly. So this is the strategy that we're following with that is to count on the fact that so we have universal compatibility with all players, because there's nothing to be done at the client as long as this client can receive and decode HEVC. But that would be normal HEVC for that client. So it's like a normal channel, but in HEVC. And last time I checked, I think that it's probably 90% of the devices that are out there today that support HEVC, and nearly 100% of the new devices that are released on the market nowadays, right? So I think the HEVC limitation isn't significant in the primary market that most of these services are targeting, which is smart TVs. And certainly if you've got a TV that you want to use Multiview on, it's going to be large, which means it's going to be new. And it's going to, HEVC came into the market for smart TVs back in 2015. So I would say 90 is probably very conservative, and it's probably closer to 90 to 95%, or 95 to 100%. The fringe cases are going to be, right?
Yeah, the fringe cases are going to be the browser and even mobile devices. I think are more HEVC enabled than TVs might be. But I mean, I just want to make this point clear. Through metadata, you are combining the HEVC input streams into one output stream that looks like any other channel to the remote device that's playing it. And that's kind of the magic. You're not having to do the transcode. You're accomplishing what the company's doing server-side transcoding are doing, but you're doing that via metadata manipulation due to some features in the HEVC specification.
Exactly. So, you know, the principle in the end is quite similar to the multi-encode, right? Is that we're preparing, you know, all these different combinations, so these different screens at the system level, and so the end user can select, you know, from this. The difference is that where we had a capacity that was limited, let's say to 100 combination with multi-encode, now would be more in the range of 10 or 100,000 capacity for 10 or 100,000, which is meaning that if you put enough servers, you can consider that you will never reach that limit. That means that now the end user has full flexibility to choose, you know, the ease customized layout, you know, the content that he wants and how he wants it to be presented. It's still something that is, and typically it will make a request with the information of what he wants, and then the combination will be done on the fly, but at the packager level, so with a lot of capacity.
What about publishers who want to make sure that they're either working with H.264 input, or they want to make sure that they still satisfy customers who can only play HEVC or H.264? What do they do?
So, I mean, if there's a problem with having an input that is HEVC, here we can provide some conversion tools, so encoders basically that would put that in HEVC. It's not much because, as I was saying, you know, you're only transcoding once per input, right, per view. So, you know, if you have 10 input channels, there would be 10 encoders, right? Now, if the customer really needs to have H.264 at the output, here it's more complex, right? Because here we have like tens of thousands of channels, maybe, or maybe thousands at least. So if you want to revert back to H.264, you know, you would come back to this limitation of having to have one encoder per stream. Right? So it's possible. We still think that it's still better to do the recombination at the packaging level rather than at the encoding level. But then we would lose the benefit of having much less hardware needed to do that. So I think for a lot of people, maybe there are some streaming operators that are very rich, and for them it's really important. But I would anticipate that most of them prefer to abandon the old devices and pay the system probably much less expensive and have a much lightweight system than if you would you were to re-encode all the different combinations.
Okay, good. And let's just go through the advantages. I mean, you're saying it's one single stream played by one standard player.
Right.
Wide support for standard device.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right. So you're mixing the two advantages of, you know, the two former approaches that I was mentioning. So as for multi-encode, you get once you got one single stream that is seen as a normal stream by the player, so compatible to any kind of players. But at the same time, so you get a wide support from all the different devices, but you don't need to add some extra encoding. You don't need to have encoding for each combination. You have an encoding just for the inputs, right? So, sometimes, you know, even this encoding at the input is already available in your normal delivery system. So sometimes no extra encoding. When you need to have more encoding, it's very limited extra encoding, right? So it's very, very affordable. And then because it's very affordable, that means that you can propose to your customers hundreds times more combination that you would with the multi-encode, meaning that, you know, in the end they have full flexibility on what they can decide to select as a combination and a context. And another thing that's interesting is that it's typically something that can come on top of existing delivery system, right? So obviously here we're recombining. We still need to do the packaging, the encryption. But even if someone has already a system with a different origin packager, doesn't need to change it, right? Typically, this can be implemented on top of the existing. So there's no issue with that.
Okay.
Does that all make sense? Yeah?
Yes.
All right. So, that's pretty much the core of the story. The next slide was just to tackle the question regarding ad insertion. Typically in Multiview, it's been a question that's been around, since the beginning, which is how do we manage the dynamic ad insertion on a Multiview? So if you do nothing, typically you will get something like that, different views, and one of them would display an ad. Well, rightfully, I think some people have problem with that because, you're not sure of the kind of attention that people will have for this particular corner of the screen, right? So the alternative that we're favoring at the moment is simply replace, this per program ad insertion by a full screen ad. So basically, as we were saying, at the output of the system, if you take one combination, technically it's like another channel, right? So it can be also yet another channel for the dynamic, the ad insertion system, right? So we just announce to the ad announcer the fact that we have more avails available through the Multiview, and from there they can decide to insert the ad specifically on this Multiview application. Regarding the interactivity, it would work like any other program, like zooming out, adding some buttons, interactivity, or banners. All that is quite logically available as well. Right? So that's a bit how we can do ad insertion on this kind of system.
What is the go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
So what tools are available, probably via your API, that allow their customers to build their own multi-views? How is that going to work?
So for this, I think maybe what will show better how it's working is the demo that I'm showing here on the screen.
Okay.
So the API, is basically in the URL that you see here. Right? So it might be a bit. Maybe I should zoom a bit here so that we see better. So you see, the way it works is that the end user would request the use of the Multiview, and then there's a number of query parameters that will say, well, here I want this content, so that will be tile 1, then this content tile 2, and so on. And in the end, it will end by saying in which layout do I want that to be displayed, right? And so this is what the origin will receive, and it will build on the fly the combination and reply with a single video that will look like that, right? Like if you imagine all this frame here, that will be seen as one single video by the player. And what is nice is because it's not using the encoding, something that I should say, one drawback as well of using the multi-encode, if you're doing the combination at the encoding side, is that there's some latency that is added with the encoding processing. Here at the packaging level, it's immediate, so you're not adding some extra latency. And when you're switching, I'll show it to you now. Let's say I want to change this square here to, let's say, TF1. You see here, now I got a different content here. And then you can also, and then you've seen it change also in the URL. Now, if I want to change the layout, let's say I want to do a force split, that would be this one. You see here that now say layout equals quad. So this is where I'll let the system know that this is the layout that I want. And he sent me the corresponding image. And
yep. It's up to the publisher to create tools that allow their TVs and their mobile devices to do this type of stream selection and switching.
What I'm saying, it works on any player. The player will know how to decode, but there's some intelligence that you need to develop in the app. Typically these buttons or the selection of the program, that would be something that needs to be in the app. But here it's just a demo app, just to show that it's quite simple. We've put in place some stuff like if you're changing the layout, we don't hear it because we don't have the sound, but the sound will be on the big one. Now if I'm clicking on this one, it will swap. The one that is big, the source that is shown as the big one in the screen, and then the audio will follow, right? So this is a bit of implementation in the client that we've put together. Maybe something else that we can see from this demo is that what I'm saying is universally compatible. We wanted people to be able to select their player, right? So here you get a list of players that we've put in our demo. So typically you'll find here we're on dash.js, but you got Cheka player, you got TO player, for example, Safari, and so on.
So this is available on your website?
We don't put it on the website, but upon request, if somebody reaches out to us, we're happy to share the demo with them.
What's the graph on the bottom showing me?
It shows the level of buffer. So basically, we're making sure that we're not getting near a limit that would bring some rebuffering. It was available by default, on our demo app. So it's not necessarily very something very important in the presentation of the Multiview. But it's just to show what kind of safety margin we have when we do the playout.
Impressive. Where is this technology in terms of availability?
So we've just announced the launch of this product last month, right? So we do have projects that are ongoing, but I cannot give the names or give details about them. But it's something that is started. I think it's going to go pretty fast. I mean, there's definitely a lot of interest. I would say in particular in the US, because they're more advanced than the rest of the world. But also we got projects also in Europe, in APAC as well. Some discussion in Latin America. So I would say it's a worldwide interest that we're seeing on this feature. Okay,
March Madness is coming up. And then I guess the NBA finals. So a lot of interesting sports coming up in the next 2 to 3 months. What's the typical implementation cycle? I mean, how challenging is this to implement? If I've got March Madness coming up and I'm a broadcaster, how long will it take to get this installed and working?
Well, I think that's another really benefit of our solution compared to the two other approaches, is that by reducing a lot the amount of hardware that you need and the complexity of the system you need to put in place, this is much faster to put on there, right? Typically, I don't know, you take a large configuration, you can have tens, let's say 10,000, 20,000 combinations in one server that are managed. So typically you would just put 1+1, you'd be fine. So it can be pretty fast to install on-prem, it can be pretty fast to put it in the cloud as well. Or we can manage it as a managed service where, when you do managed service, the advantage is you're saving on the time of, site acceptance test, training of the crew. You can start with managed service and then go on-prem if you prefer. So if you want to shorten a bit the time of availability, there are different options that are available.
What about the whole compatibility with the ad infrastructure? Are companies going to have to do anything special there, or is it just going to slot in like any other normal ad opportunity?
So it's hard to say right now because, in the different project that I was mentioning, ad insertion is not in the first phase. I'm not aware of any multi-view implementation today. I might miss one, but where ad insertion is part of it, or besides the default that I was saying, right? Maybe there will be on the different tiles, one of the tiles that would go as an ad because the source was like that. But I think it's still something in discussion. What's the best way to integrate ad insertion in there? But I mean, there are solutions for any idea. I think I don't see a particular blocking point in. The different types of implementation we can imagine. And maybe on the contrary, maybe there are some use cases in ad insertion that will be reusing the technology of the multi-view. Like for example, if you think about L banner where you zoom out the video to put some space on the screen, you could imagine that instead of having a still picture, you could have a video. Typically that would be within what a multi-view system can do. Right? So these are examples. I don't know if it's something that people will be interested to implement it or not. But at least, it's yet another tool to enrich, the way we're doing ad insertion, I think.
Okay. What else do you have for us?
That's, I guess it's a good start. If people want to know more about it, of course, they will know how to get in touch with Broadpeak, and we'll be happy to go into the details or talk about the specificities of that the operator will have. Very happy to get into this kind of discussion.
Okay.
So,
I mean, it's a unique architecture. Congratulations on getting it out there. I mean, it really is the best of both worlds. So, congrats and good luck with it.
I haven't seen anyone else, proposing this approach. So I think it's going to come at some point, but we might be the first ones here.
Okay. Damien, thanks for taking the time to chat, and good luck with this technology. I'm sure you'll have a very busy NAB coming up.
Right. Yes. Thank you very much.